Hi everyone, this is Tuplex. Welcome back. We are here in the Satisfactory modeler because before we jump into the phase 3 action today, I'd like to start taking a look at the planning that I've done so far. I'll probably need to still make some tweaks here and there, but I just wanted to have an idea of what we needed to produce for phase 3. And in order to do that, I also wanted to have an inkling of what we were going to require for phase 4. So phase 3 is going to introduce 2 new parts that we have to make for the project assembly, and that is the modular engine and the adaptive control unit. So I put together a production plan here that will have us making both of those, and again making one machine with summer sloops on each of those parts. In the case of the modular engine, I'm going to have to overclock it slightly as well to 125% in addition to the summer sloop, because I want to get 2.5 per minute. Otherwise I would only get 2, and the reason I want 2.5 is because in phase 4 we're going to have to produce something that will require those 2.5 modular engine units, which is the thermal propulsion rocket. So in order for me to have one machine of each of those phase 4 parts, I'll need slightly more than we'll be making in the phase 3 factory. Okay. And you can see that for the phase 4 products, we have inputs using the versatile frameworks, as well as the 2 phase 3 parts that we're going to be making. So I think this is pretty cool that, you know, some of the project parts that you make in earlier phases are used as ingredients for the following phases. And what I've decided to do here is I'm not going to produce these ingredients in more than one place. So for example, in phase 3, we are going to need 2.5 smart plating per minute. We already have that covered in the phase 1 factory. We're going to need 5 automated wiring per minute. We already have that covered in the phase 2 factory. And since we're not using these parts for anything anymore, I thought, well, let's just belt them over or send them on a train or something to the other factory so we can make use of those. Right, so those 2 project parts are going to be used again in phase 3 as ingredients for the ones that we need to make. Now, we also need rubber and plastic, and a lot of steel. We need a little more caterium, as well as a few other, you know, a little bit of iron and copper and limestone and so forth. But I think what we're going to do is I'm going to start to make outposts for some of these products. So you can see here that I've made a plan for an outpost for oil products, which would be the plastic, the rubber, and then the very useful byproduct of fuel. And then we'll also make an outpost that'll produce steel in high quantities, steel products, including the encased industrial beams. So we can see what these outpost factories are going to produce per minute. We can see here what we're going to require per minute, and I can see that I've got the requirements covered. Now in the planner, you can connect all of your outposts and so forth. But what I'm finding is that when I do that, it makes the calculations take a long time. So you make a little change somewhere, and you might have to wait a couple minutes for it to recalculate everything. So for now, I'm just going to leave each of these disconnected, with the exception of the fuel going to power, so that we can, just so it's a little more agile and easy to use. And I can easily see if I need to bump up my production on something or not. So that's not really a big problem. Because I think in phase 4, we're probably going to need plastic and rubber and stuff to make those things, as well as some steel parts. So this way I can produce the oil stuff and the steel stuff in larger quantities in a dedicated factory, and then we can ship them out by trains to the phase 4 or the phase 3 factories as they're needed. So Yeah, so we'll get into all this in much greater detail, but essentially for phase 3, I want to make my 2 project parts. I also want to make heavy modular frames. I'm going to use a alternate recipe for that, heavy encased frames. I don't think I've unlocked that one yet, so we'll have to keep scanning hard drives. I also want to send circuit boards to storage, so I'm going to make an excess of circuit boards, and I'm going to make an excess of computers because we need these 3 ingredients to make stuff for the factory, to make machines and computers. For example, you need to make train signals and so on and so forth. So we're going to need these components to actually build things, which is why I'm going to be producing extra of those, like we did with the previous factories. So when we look at it this way, it makes the phase 3 factory much simpler, since we don't have to produce every input from raw materials, right? So it'll make this much easier to build. You can see that the resource requirements for ores and things are not crazy. Should be easy to find a good place to put those things. And if we look at the map, what I'm thinking is I'm going to put the steel factory over here in this area, because I have 3 pure iron nodes and I have 3 pure coal nodes close by. I also have a lot of limestone here to make the concrete for the encased beams, and there is also a pure copper node here, which I will need for the phase 3 factory. So my thinking is I'm going to put the steel outpost here in this area. I'll actually build above the iron nodes. And then we'll belt in the coal and the limestone that we need. And then I think I'm going to build the phase 3 factory right here, like in this area. So we can actually ship steel to the phase 3 factory on belts. I don't think we'll need to use trains for that because it'll be so close. I'm also going to need some Caterium ore. So remember, our Caterium smelting operation is right here, and we have a lot more capacity on that if we need it. And then I have access to the copper and limestone and stuff that I'll need for that as well. So if we go back and look at our phase 3 inputs, right, we're going to be bringing in rubber, plastic, iron pipes, encased beams, or I'm sorry, steel pipes, encased beams, Caterium ingots, and then we'll bring in the smart plating and the automated wiring from the other factory. Now for those, we can either belt those in, which is what I'm inclined to do because those factories are not terribly far away. Or the other option is that we can just hand carry smart plating and automated wiring. You can see in phase 3 we only need 1,000 of one and 750 of the other. On the other hand, I do want continuous production going on. So in an earlier playthrough I did, where I just wanted to kind of finish the game in an easy way, I would just produce just what I needed, and then I would just stick it in a container and then feed the factory from the container. You can always do that if you don't want to have continuous production of all these things. But I do, so more than likely we'll send it over on a belt, or we'll use we can use a train. We don't unlock drones until phase 4, so drones would be great to use here, but since they're relatively small quantities, but we won't have those for a while. So anyway, this is the planning so far. But before we get into all that, I want to set up a starter oil factory that we can use to make some plastic and rubber, so that we can unlock all the phase 3 technologies. So what I've done since the last episode, I built out a series of platforms going down to this area. We have 2 pure crude oil nodes and 2 normal nodes, and this all together will give us quite a lot of oil. So what we'll work on today is what I'm calling the starter oil factory, and this is very simple. We're just going to use a single extractor on a normal oil node. We'll have 2 refineries making plastic. We'll have 2 refineries making rubber. That'll give us 40 of each, respectively. And then you have a byproduct of heavy oil residue, which later on we will be turning into fuel to run fuel generators to generate more power. But we haven't unlocked that yet. So for now, I'm just going to turn it into petroleum coke, and then we'll send it into the awesome sink because I don't have a use for it at the moment. Petroleum coke does have uses, but for now, I just want plastic and rubber that we can use to, to craft things and to unlock recipes. So, so this is what we're going to set up today, this little starter oil factory. And then once we build the larger oil factory, what you'll see here, when we take advantage of all those nodes, we'll be able to produce much higher quantities, and more importantly, we'll produce a lot of residual oil. Now, just using the basic recipe for residual oil, we can make 240 fuel a minute. That's with no overclocking or anything like that. And that is enough to run 12 fuel generators, which will give us 3 gigawatts of power. So it's a pretty significant power boost for not a whole lot of work. Once we unlock some more alternate recipes and so forth, we'll be able to make a lot more power from the same amount of residual fuel. We can do like turbo fuel. You can do diluted fuel where you mix it with water, right? And that basically triples your fuel output. So we'll want to get this one as soon as we can. And then you also have other stuff like turbo heavy fuel, turbo blend fuel. This stuff, you can really, this is where you end up with like hundreds and hundreds of generators running, off of a single plastic setup. But it'll be a while before we get there. For now, this will serve us well, and this will take care of our power requirements for phase 3 pretty easily. All right, so and then if we look at the steel factory, here the limit on the output here is basically how much coal I have. So I've got 720 coal. Again, that's just with Mark II miners, no overclocking. We can always bump this up, but if we don't need it, we don't need it. And this will give us the parts that we need in pretty decent quantities. And I'm going to use pure iron ingot for the iron, so we'll use a lot less iron by doing that. Where you take the iron ore and add water, and you get higher productivity on your iron ingots. So I don't know. I'll think about it. Maybe I will just overclock the coal mines, just so I can use up all the iron that we have available. And I mean, it's going to give us a lot of steel that we may or may not use, but anything excess we produce, we'll send into a sink. So we'll get something for it. Okay. So let's jump into it. Before we head down there for the starter oil setup, I wanted to show you my smart trash system that I set up here. So what I've done here is, I have this container for trash. And previously I had this connected directly to the sink, but what I've done is I set up one programmable splitter. So I have anything I want to turn into fuel going out the right side, power slugs going out the center, and anything else going out the left side. So the fuel goes over here to where we are making the solid biofuel. We've seen that before. That's been around since phase 1, pretty much, right? With our smart splitter. The slugs, in here, we'll go upstairs to see how this works. So the slugs I send upstairs. This is what's making the fuel. Okay, so now I just have the solid biofuel going into this. That way I always have fuel for my chainsaw available. The slugs come over here. And I just have those set to make power shards of the appropriate type. And I put summer sloops in all of these, so I get the double output. And those go into my power shard storage. And then everything else goes through the other way, which starts over here. And what I'm doing here is, if any animal remains come by, those use a smart splitter. Right, so everything else that wasn't already being captured, sorry, I'm looking at it the wrong way. It comes up here and then it goes, like, for example, if there's hard remains, it'll go to this machine. Anything else will continue along the line. Hatcher remains, stinger remains, and spitter remains. And then again here, I'm turning those into protein with summer sloops. The output all comes down here into this machine where I'm making alien DNA capsules with smart sloops. That gets merged with all the other stuff that passes through here that we don't want. And then it goes downstairs and it goes into the sink. Right, so now I can come here, for example, and I can start throwing in animal remains. I can throw in wood, leaves. I can throw in my power slugs, and they all get routed to the appropriate place and get processed automatically, and I can go about my business. And I've always got solid biofuel. I've always got power shards and all the DNA capsules. Here you can see the DNA capsules come down the line and they go into the sink. And if I throw something in here that isn't included in any of those other categories, yeah, like some iron plates, for example, those will go through the whole system and they'll just circle back and go into the sink. Right, so anything that I don't have, that I'm not converting into something else, will just get passed through and it'll come out the other side, which you'll be able to see here in a moment. Takes about half a minute. Right, and there's the iron plates. So I thought this was pretty cool, and I thought you guys might like to see it. Okay, let's go process some oil. So I've got a tube here that'll take us down there. We've seen this area before. I've already been exploring down here where the oil is. And I used the basis for rail going this way in case, well, for sure I'm going to be sending stuff by train, so I'm not sure exactly where it's going to end up yet, but we can figure that out later. But for now, I do have the ability to add train rails here. All right. So this is a pure node, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that one's pure. I think that one is pure. And then there's a normal one there. And is that another normal one down here? I'm not sure I see it. Yeah, there's another normal one down here. Okay. So I'll just use the one that's closest to us. Oh, and by the way, there's even more oil here. And let me show you that. Just over the rise here, you have this, which is an oil well. We can't use this now, but later in the game, you get resource wells, where you can basically pressurize the well and extract from here. So there's an oil well here. There are nitrogen wells, and there are water wells in various places on the map. We haven't used any of those. I think you unlock those in phase 4. Right, so we can't use that now, but eventually we'll be able to use that too if we want, and that'll, you can get a lot of resource out of these wells compared to a typical resource node. Okay, so we'll set up over yonder with our basic setup. Let me first run a pole here, and I want to use, no, I want to use a tower. There we go. And let's make it one with a platform. Shoot. All right, I guess I'll have to do it manually. There we go. Over here. All right, I'll just set it there. Should be good enough. And that'll give us the power that we need. All right, I already cleared out the critters here earlier so that you don't have to see my pathetic attempts at combat. So I'll put down an oil extractor here, but first let me lay a foundation. I'll put a 2-meter foundation there and make it align to the grid. Okay. Nope. Oil extractor. There we go. That's what the oil extractor looks like. And we can see here that will give us 120 per minute without any overclocking or anything. Now from here, I think that, yeah, we're going to want to elevate the factory because we're going to need, am I going to need water? I don't need water now, but I think I may need water later, especially if we do the diluted fuel as I would like to. Yeah, so I think I'm going to elevate the factory. That also, of course, that also means that we're going to have, and let's elevate it higher than this. That also means I'm probably going to have to use a pump to get the oil up high enough. But that shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, I think up there looks good. Okay, so that'll be the foundation for our starter oil factory. Yeah, you know, actually I should have just left that there. Let's just do that. Sorry, let's make this. Okay. I can't see my tooltip anymore. All right. This way I can run a ladder up the side. All right, now I just wonder if I have the pumps, because I think I only have the Mark 1 pump right now. Maybe that's enough. Let's see, pipeline pump. Okay, that'll give me 20 meters. That'll give me 20 meters of height. I think I get 10 meters of lift out of the machine. Doesn't say, but I've got 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Yeah, so I should be able to get it up to that level. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble with rudimentary base building here. So I'll use a pipeline floor hole, like so. And then I'll just run a pipe from here to there. And we will place a pipeline pump. Right now, if we can go up, I'll put it up like close to 10 meters. That should be a good spot for it. And we'll just rotate it so it's not interfering with the other machinery. Okay. So that should get it up to where we need it. Where's my power connection on this thing? Oh, it's in the back. Oh, lovely. All right. Put that there. We'll put this here. We'll connect that to the pump. And then we'll hook that up to our power supply. All right. Now let's watch this thing work. There it goes. Right, and I can see the pump working, and I can see oil filling the pipe above it, so we should be in good shape with the height. I think you can also run multiple pumps in series if you need more, if you need to get more elevation, but I think we'll be fine with what we've got here. Okay, and remember this is just like kind of like the starting factory as well, so we're gonna end up shutting this down at some point and rebuilding something much bigger, so I'm not gonna worry about it too much. All right, so let's build some more foundation here. Looks good. Let's see, is that gonna be too wide? I think we just barely missed the tower there. Okay, and let's do another couple of blocks. Okay, so to begin with, we need 4 refineries. So we'll go to production, go to the refineries, make sure we got the inputs on the right side. Give ourselves a little bit of clearance here. Right. That looks like a good spot. There. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. And these, this looks a lot like the coal generators, so we're somewhat familiar with how this works. So these will make plastic. And these will make rubber. And we don't have any, we're not using the solid material inputs. So in this case, we can just run a single pipeline. So I'll just put a junction in front of each one. Like so. There we go. Wait for the lines to show up so I know that they're all aligned properly. Great. Get our pipeline. Connect all that. Nope. The pipes seem almost eager to connect to the wrong thing. Like it's easier to connect it incorrectly than it is to do it the way that you want it. Okay. So the plastic uses 30 a minute and the rubber also uses 30 a minute. So times 4, that's 120. That's exactly what we're getting out of the machine. Okay. And then we just hook that together, but let's make this look a little bit nicer. Let's do a right angle. So if you want to do a right angle on pipes, get the centers to line up and then go back 2 notches. And then when you connect, you'll have a nice right angle. That looks pretty. Okay, so we're flowing 300 a minute. so far so good. Now, oh, please tell me please tell me that's the input. Yeah, that's the input. Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's the input. Maybe we need to power it up before we'll see the right thing happening there. All right, so I'll put a power pole just directly in front of each one. No, I don't want to do that. That's kind of ugly. Let's not do a logistics floor for the starter factory. We'll keep it simple. Okay. And then we're going to need to get the heavy oil residue out of these things. So we need a pipe for that. And this part you have to be careful of, because if you don't clear these machines of the byproducts, then the machines will stop running and you'll find yourself running out of plastic and or rubber. Similarly, if you're not getting rid of all the plastic and rubber out of these machines, you might find yourself running out of fuel and running out of power, which is an even more problematic situation. So you definitely want to be careful of that. All right. Yeah, so let's just hook these up thusly. Just line them up right in front here. Is that on the center line? Yeah, how nice. Okay. Hook all these. Oh, that one's already connected. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll leave that here, basically. I may have to move that pole because I want to put... Well, I'll put the other two refineries out front. That'll be fine. All right. So let's connect that. I'll fix this later on. Here. All right. So now the refineries are running. Let's see what's happening inside. We're getting rubber, and we're getting heavy oil residue. Okay, we don't see the residue because right now they're filling the pipe. And we'll take care of that shortly. Okay, so until we get around to dealing with that, I think I will put that back. And let's set up a couple of containers for ourselves. So I'll use mergers. And this one I'll face out. Storage container, and I want to line this up. Yeah, I think that's aligned. Okay. There's our rubber. And there's our plastic. We'll throw dimensional depots on top so that we don't have to run over here to pick things up all the time. Except when we need large quantities, of course. All right. Yeah, so we're getting 40 per minute output on each of these, and now we have to take care of the oil, okay? Because the heavy oil residue, because that's starting to back up. So let's make 2 more refineries. And we'll try to line them up with the pipes to make things a little bit simpler. Let's see, does that line up with the pipe also? It does. That's convenient. Okay, so half will go in there, half will go in there, and we're just going to make petroleum coke with these. Now, what can we use petroleum coke for? So far, you can see so far we have no uses for it. So, although it does have energy, so you could use it like you would coal. For example, we could run it into a coal generator and then pump in some water and use it like that. But again, this is just temporary. So we'll just send it into the fix-it sink and get some coupons. We're doing fine on power so far. And by the way, we can still get another let me see. Our coal power plant, we're overclocking to 200%. So we can still increase output by another 25% by overclocking to 250, which would give us what? How many more generators would we get from that? Let's see, 25% of 48, we get like another 12 generators, I think, if my math is not wrong. So we still have a little bit of room to grow over there. Not a lot, just a little. Okay, so this should eat up all the heavy oil residue. Oh, look at this. It's 120 per minute on each one of these machines. So we're gonna need to use fast belts here. There we go. 180 megajoules. I wonder what coal has. Coal has 300. Yeah, so this stuff, it's a little more than half as efficient as coal. But look how much you can make. I mean, just from this little bit of production of plastic and rubber, we're getting 240 a minute of this stuff. Right, now I haven't done much to take advantage of this in the past, in my previous playthroughs, but I'm going to do some research, because I have a feeling there might be some really good opportunities to use this stuff to make power or whatever. All right. So let's clean this up a little bit. Right, so that's our starter oil factory. Let's see, are we still... Yeah, so we can see all the oil is easily getting out. Nothing's backing up in there. The pump we put in place seems to be making the oil flow nicely. Okay, and we're getting plastic and rubber. Let's see. Not a lot. We'll have to let it build up a bit. Okay, so we've got almost 400. We've got 400 rubber. It's still filling that up though, so we'll have to wait a few minutes for that to finish. Yeah, but let's go back to home base and see if there's anything that we can start to unlock now that we have the rubber and plastic going. All right, so I think unlocking petroleum power would be a great place to start, because that'll allow us right away to start making fuel and using it. We have the ability to produce it, but not the ability to make power from it. So why don't we start by unlocking this. And I'm going to need motors and encased beams. Here, I'm going to need more motors anyway. I'll just get them as many as I can right now. There we go. There we go.
Milestone reached. It is my honor and privilege to inform you that the fuel-powered generator, as well as the industrial fluid buffer, are now available. Due to a lack of gold in your sector, Caterium will serve as a suitable replacement to construct the fuel-powered generator. Your research into this element was valuable. In fact, you in particular are my most valuable pioneer, but don't tell the others I said that. It would be bad for morale.
Right, so we already had Caterium scannable because we discovered it already, but this is kind of a safety net in case you get this far into the game without ever seeing Caterium. After you, I don't know, after you get yourself checked out, you can scan it. All right, so we can do power now, which will be nice. What else would be important to unlock right away? Pipeline Mark II would be good, but I need heavy modular frames for that, so let's hold off on that for a bit. I don't want to do computers yet, so we'll do the rest of these. Liquid biofuel, I think, is a good fuel to use for jetpacks, so this will unlock some good stuff here. So let's select that one next, and as soon as the pod lands, we'll unlock that one. All right, so while we're waiting for the pod to come back, it's almost here. It'll be here in a few minutes. Since we can now make fuel generators, we can take our starter oil setup, and now instead of making petroleum coke and sending it to a sink, we can use one refinery to make residual fuel, and we can use that to power 2 fuel generators, which will give us 500 megawatts. So that's what we'll do right now. That it won't take long to set up. Okay. We got another 2 minutes there. Yeah, so rather than waiting for that, let's just head over and update our setup, and then I'll unlock some more stuff in between episodes. As we progress in the game here, I think it's going to start taking more and more time to build things and set things up, to the point where I think making videos where I'm building everything in real time is not going to work well for YouTube. So going forward, I'm probably going to be doing more and more stuff on my own in between episodes, and then using the videos to explain the setups and show what's going on, rather than using the episodes to actually build the things. And I hope that's okay with everybody, but I don't want to have like 100 episodes in the series. So I think it's probably the only practical way to make it work. All right. So yeah, so we'll disconnect this one. And this one, we're going to change the recipe to make residual fuel. Now you can also make fuel with polymer resin directly from oil, and that has some applications as well. In this case, we're making 4 fuel from 6 oil residue, and with this you can make 4 fuel plus polymer resin from 6 oil, right? So residual fuel is a good way to use the oil that comes out as a byproduct, but you can also use that oil to directly create fuel more efficiently with a byproduct of polymer resin. And you can use resin and water to create your plastic and rubber. So, you know, there's obviously more than one way to skin a cat here, right? It's kind of what I'm getting at. And we'll figure out how we want our cat skinned as we progress through the game. But for now, this will be a nice and simple arrangement. All right, now let's build a couple of... I actually don't need that. Let's build 2 generators. Can I fit 2 generators up here? I think I can. They're not too enormous. Let's see. Yeah, good. There's one, and whoops, let me get out of the way. 1 and 2. All right, and we put the junctions in place. How does that stack up? That should work. Are these not aligned? Yeah, they are. Okay. And I'll put one in front of this as well. All right. You know what? I should buffer. I'm going to buffer some fuel. Just a little. So let's use... We have like this big industrial fluid buffer, but that's too big. I'll just use one of these small fellas here, if I can. Okay. Yeah, it looks like I can, but it doesn't want to fit where I put everything. Alright, so let's move that out here. And we'll just redo this plumbing here. Okay. There we go. Now we can see some fuel going in. And we're still using up the 60 per minute, so we're doing fine there. Where's my power connection on these? This power connection is in the back. Bear with me, guys. There we go. Okay. There we go. All right. Now we should have fuel flowing in. There it goes. Now we just have to hook up the generators to power. And we'll be in business. Here we go. Nice diesel motor sound. So these each use 20 fuel a minute and give us 250 megawatts. And we're making 40 fuel a minute, so we should have a perfectly balanced system with nothing backing up. Oh, except for excess plastic and rubber. Now that stuff very easily could back up, so we need to make sure that that doesn't happen, otherwise our power production will stop. So let's throw in a smart splitter. Let me see. Yeah, that's oriented correctly. That's not in the right spot. There we go. Okay. So in this case, overflow is to the right, and in this case, overflow is to the left. Okay. We're not going to see any overflow for a while, but just in case we do, it'll be taken care of and nothing will get filled up and stop running. Okay, excellent. Now let's look at our power output. And so we're getting the 500, and then we're also getting another 10%, remember, from our power boost. So that gives us actually 550 megawatts more. So that'll do it for this episode. Next time we'll get to work on setting up the large plastic factory and the large steel factory. And once we have those done, then we'll start working towards the phase 3 factory. So I hope you're enjoying it so far. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.